Hey y'all, so I'm back. Um, Somebody wrote in, and uh, I love basic questions. I think they're cool because there's so many basic things that people don't know about, or they want to know, and they have to guess because sometimes they're so basic that nobody talks about them, and so therefore, particularly younger writers or beginning writers are like, am I right or am I wrong? I mean, you've got enough to tangle with actually just writing a screenplay rather than um, having to guess some of this basic stuff. And what this person asked was very simple, which was, but perhaps a complex answer, which was, how do I get people to read my script? What they think they said something like, asking somebody, one of my friends, to read a 90-page script is something I've been asked, how do I go about this? And somebody intelligently replied, join a group of other writers and sort of trade scripts back and forth. That's kind of like mutual flagellation, though, in a way, I think, because it's like you beat me and I'll beat you. But it can work. It comes with some inherent issues, though. You have to be very careful, first of all, about who you let read your script, because what they say is going to have an effect on you. It's going to have an effect on your rewriting, and that effect will last forever, and no one is immune to it. So I personally am extremely cautious about letting anybody read my scripts, to be honest with you. And when they do, I generally don't ask their opinion, because everybody's opinion is going to be different. I mean, there are cases in kind of where there's smoke, there's fire sort of things, like it's sort of slow and boring, and around page 50, and there's just certain sets of questions, and I'll go through those in a separate segment one day about how to really get to the bottom of what someone really thinks when they read a script. But my answer to that is there's two things that I want to know. First, you said 90-page script. I want to point out that a 90-page, every genre has its own value, and it's important to learn by reading scripts and by writing scripts how long each genre is worth having. You can't really have, let's say, a John Wick action film that, well, putting aside the last John Wick that's made because it disobeys all kinds of rules, but it can because it's the fourth installment of a very successful franchise. Putting that aside, your spec action script should never be 130 pages long, not even close to that. It should be like maybe 103 pages, and I find all of mine fall, within between 103 and 106 pages, if I'm writing action. 90 pages, almost strictly a horror film, usually one that's, half a dozen people in a house, sort of really very limited scope. But that really wasn't the subject of the question. The question is, how do I get people to read it? And my answer for this, and there are a number of answers, I'm sure, but my answer goes back to the battle of the page. And this is another sort of more complex way of saying there's a very easy way to get someone to read your script. That is, make it great. Make every word of it great. And that's why I say, for me, every page is a battle. Starting with the first page, the second page is a battle. You've got to get them to turn the page. If you can do that, and you start to lull them, they get about 10, 15 pages in, and like, oh, okay. They stop thinking about who's behind the keyboard, and they feel like they're being in the capable hands, and they're being guided. And if you can do this, you can get anybody to read anything. If it's a great script, it's just like a great novel. It's easy. So, and I'll go into greater depth, at another point. But and it sounds a bit glib, I know, just make it great, but it really is true. Because if you do make it great, you'll have no problem getting people to read your script. But you must also be conscious of it when you're writing. Every single page is a battle. If you don't get any grace pages, you don't get any freebie pages where, we'll give them that one. The last one was good, this one's boring, and then the next one's boring, but then the next one's good, maybe. No. Every page, every word, every paragraph, every line of dialogue has to be great. People are like, this is fun. And really the key word for me is fun. It needs to have momentum, it needs to be entertaining, it needs to be fun. And so if you can focus on these things, and that's why I'll go back and repeat that I never write outlines, ever, because they're math. And I write everything I write. What do I want to see next? What do I want to feel next? Whether it's the next line or the next page. Obey your emotions, obey your instincts. Do you want to see something boring? I don't think so. So don't write something boring. Anyway, again, I know that sounds good, but I also promise you that it's true. Make your scripts fun, entertaining, and just kind of a rush. And you'll have no problem getting people to read your scripts. That's all for today. Nice to see you guys again.